What is crack-a-lackin', fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Favale coming at you with yet another 2023-2024 NBA team look ahead. We are on to the Los Angeles Lakers. Longtime listeners of the podcast know what that means. We get to sit down and pick the brain of the one, the only, the legendary Jabari Ali Davis. Follow him on the Twitter machine at Jabari Davis NBA. That's at JABARIDAVIS NBA. You can find the handle and the link to a podcast that he produces, writes content for, Mad Boosties. It's hosted by iHeart, and it's also under the NBA umbrella. I will include the link to go subscribe to that in the podcast and YouTube description as well. Always love talking to you, Jabari. And the first question, the most important question, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well. First of all, thank you for that incredible intro. I straight out have never had an intro quite like that, so I appreciate it. I will Zelle you that $20 bill after the go. No, I'm great, man. I'm great. The NBA season's coming up. We got camps, starting next week. We got preseason in about a week or so. I cannot wait.
Yeah, and I feel like this is going to be a very different look ahead about the Lakers than it was. And by the way, I don't know if you know this is year 4 for you.
It's 4. I thought it was 3. Okay.
Year 4 on the Lakers. And I think that's how long I've been doing the look ahead series is 4 or 5 years. I can't remember. So
I am honored, truly.
I'm grateful you keep coming back. At this point, it's your fault too. Like once or twice, it's okay. That might be on. I might have tricked him. It's officially your fault. So
I think your listeners are probably like, okay, yeah, maybe not. Maybe let's not make 5, but we'll see how this one goes.
No, it needs. Look, I think it's important. I like getting different perspectives, but we bring on enough like different guests. I value the chemistry I have with returning guests, and so it's like I have ones. We've had a few first-time guests, and those are fun. But I love being able to sit down with people, like if it's once a year, like with you, and we've now done it 4 times, and we just have like a good rapport. I think that adds value to the show. It could be a little bit more like in an informal interview sometimes when it's just like first time people on the show, which again, you need to start somewhere. So I recognize that, but I love chatting about hoops with you. So I'm sure the listeners love it too.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. And I hope they do.
Let's talk some Lakers here. And I kind of wanted to start with last season, where it was just it felt like there was 8 or 9 Lakers seasons rolled into one. And
yes,
they were 24th. It starts with the Russell Westbrook situation, which might be the first and last time we mentioned it throughout this podcast. They're 24th in net rating before they trade him. Then they jumped to 6th with the league best defense after the trade. What was different after that trade? Or was it more like, okay, well, the overall returns were being dragged down by their really poor start, and we'd already kind of seen a little bit of a shift before then? Like, what just went into like starting so poorly, and then there's the Russ trade, and it felt like they really took off?
Yeah, and and I want to preface this, of course, by stating that this is not going to be like a knock Russ or like make this all about Russ deal. When I speak about this, I'm speaking about the general fit. Is he a part of that, or was he a part of that? Yes, but I think there was clearly enough talent to at least make it interesting. Prior to the deadline, but I also think that we had seen enough of that combination to know that it simply wasn't the right one. I think everyone involved could have raised their hand, accept the fault in that, whether it be the front office or the players that thought it would be a good idea, or LeBron individually, AD, whoever, Russ himself. Everyone can raise their hand and say like, yeah, we didn't get that right. Ultimately, what I really felt was, yes, there were signs that that they were a better team than the 2-10 start. And yes, they had, at least worked their way back into the conversation, but it probably was never going to come to fruition. I don't even have to like sugarcoat it. It was never going to come to fruition with Russ. Now, ultimately, they didn't win. You know what I'm saying? They got to a conference finals, and that always sounds good, but if you're a Lakers fan, like that's like a wasted season. But it at least set them on the right trajectory. And I feel like they followed up this summer.
Look, they had and they're still having a busy summer. Like the Christian Wood signing comes in, the Jared Vanderbilt extension, there was the AD extension. Going through, I normally like to go through each of the notable individual moves. We would be here until the All-Star break if we did that with the Lakers. So I want to try and break this down with some more overarching thoughts and quick hitters. But let's start with this. what were your overall impressions about how they fared and what they did in sum this offseason? New additions, re-signings, extensions, the whole nine.
Honestly, I thought it was fantastic work. And you know me, look, I'm not going to be a homer. If they didn't do well, I would acknowledge it and say like, yeah, this isn't it. But on paper, as well as I think it will be the case in practice, I think they did a solid job of not just solidifying the roster around the guys that they already had, but bringing in guys that actually fit and made sense. You know what I mean? Like, and and allow me to give credit because the moves right ahead of last year's deadline were pretty much just precursors to this summer. It was basically just getting a jump start like on the summer. So outside of finding a bigger and bruising center, to eat up some minutes, especially during the regular season and in terms of particular matchup like in the postseason, I think they did everything that they needed to do. I was impressed.
I was with you too. I thought they didn't have like all these, they could have had cap space and stuff, but I thought with the tools at their disposal, we always kind of knew they were going to operate as an over the cap team. That the Kyrie scenario was just, it always felt like a super duper long shot. I was impressed. And I've actually been basically since everything Rob Pelinka has done almost, I would argue since the Rush trade has been like good. So I was a big fan of the midseason trade too. I was higher on D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley than it turned out I should have been coming in. And even Vando was just like, he becomes unplayable at some points in the playoffs, but the extension was good. What new addition though, looking at only new additions, what new addition intrigues you the most?
Two-part answer, because obviously, Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince are solid and somewhat proven and established players. I think they will contribute. I think they will both find, ample time, ample playing time, throughout the rotation or, in the rotation, throughout the year. But I'm going to tell you, and this is one that may surprise you, especially, with how some of your, how your questions are formulated. Cam Reddish is the one that intrigues me. I'm answering specific, that intrigues me the most. And part of it, admittedly, is because he's still a mystery box. I recognize he's had a bunch of stops along the way, but he's only 24 years old. He's 6'8". He's an athletic guy. Am I expecting him to just put on purple and gold and just figure it all completely out? No, that's not realistic. But I am intrigued to see what it looks like, when he's been working within this system, when he's working alongside guys, like LeBron James and Anthony Davis and all of the other guys that are on there. And quite frankly, not that it's now or never, but it's almost like you don't get all that many opportunities. So at the very least, I'm intrigued to see what they might have.
Is he going to play a role though? This team still needs wings, and Cam Reddish, I think, showed a lot of offensive promise in Portland last year. The tunnel vision and like the not really being good at passing or wanting to pass is bad. And I just don't, his physical tools, he should be a lot more disruptive on defense. But like, are they going to give him, this is a minimum, at the end of the day, it's a minimum signing. So are they going to give him a real shot at regular minutes, do you think?
I think they're going to have to, at least initially, at least give him the opportunity. Like, it's not like nothing is guaranteed. And if he doesn't perform, or if he displays some, like a lot of the weaknesses that he has shown at different times, or the lapses in judgment there or whatever, like on the court that he's shown at times, well, then, you just pull him out of the rotation, specifically because, like you said, it isn't like they paid him a great deal or, gave him any, like a 4-year guaranteed, situation. But because of what you alluded to at the start of the question, because they don't have a ton of wings outside of like their main guys, they're going to have to give it. They're going to have to see what's there. Much like they're going to, and I know that these guys are coming up. Much like they're going to have to see what Max Christie can bring you in year 2. They're going to have to give these guys opportunities, unless you're telling me that they're still going to make some moves. The wing situation is going to dictate that those guys are going to get at least early season opportunities, and he's definitely going to be one of them.
Look, you mentioned him, so let's talk about him. I've heard from people who I think are very smart that Max Christie looks like he's due for making an impact. What is the intrigue here with Max Christie? I didn't see a ton of him in summer league. What is so polarizing about Max Christie?
He's long, rangy. He's interchangeable defensively. He can guard some 1s, he can guard 2s, and he can guard some 3s. The rumor is that he came in at 6'5". The rumor is that he's more like 6'6", 6'7" now. Obviously, that would if he continues to to trend in that direction, that would help. but he did show signs. I recognize a lot of people weren't watching the Lakers games, especially when in the moments when he was playing. Throughout the course of the season last year, but he did show some signs. He showed it was one of those where it was like, okay, this is a basketball player. This is we'll see if he can develop into like a rotational guy. But he was very clearly a basketball player already. So I think there's always going to be that optimism. There's fans of the team are always of any team are always going to like be hopeful or or wishful for their young prospects. But at the very least, there's something there. You know what I mean? And again, he's buried in the depth chart. Like, say for instance, they want to play him at the 2. He's pretty much buried in the depth chart there. And I don't necessarily see him breaking through there, barring anything, crazy. But if he's going to get on the court, it's going to be simply because he's able to work his way in, find, playing a little bit bigger, playing some 3, maybe playing some backup 2 at points. But I guess I don't even know if I answered your question, but I guess that's why I'm intrigued by him, because there's some interchangeability there, because he did look good in some spots over the course of his rookie season, and because he showed some growth in the summer league, especially in those early games. There's reason to be intrigued.
I mean, look, if he's going to come in and he can actually play minutes at the 3, that's what's really valuable for them, because I say they don't have wings, and like they do have flyers now. Like there's Cam Reddish, Jalen Hood-Schifino they just drafted. LeBron is still kind of a wing, but he's basically like a fringe big / point guard. So, but if he comes in and he can play the 3 and he's going to give you shooting, he shot like 42% from 3 last year on very low volume. So if he can like give you, it was relative. He wasn't playing a ton of minutes, but so if he's going to hit threes and can play, like hold up defensively at the 3, that's, I don't want to say it's a game changer just to overstate his importance, but like that's someone who I'd argue just needs to be in the rotation then.
And to be clear, like I'm not saying that, I know that you recognize this. I'm just saying this for the benefit of the listeners. I'm not saying that, it's a guarantee that he's going to do these things. That's what the hope is. That's, when looking at this roster, it's very clear to me. It's like, okay, so either they're expecting Max Christie to take a significant leap, even with all of the nice things I just said about him, or they're expecting Cam Reddish to be in a rotation. One of those two, that has to be the expectation. So I'm hopeful.
This is how we go viral, bringing up Max Christie within the first 10 minutes of the Lakers look ahead. Was there a move, and it could be a new addition, it could be a contract they gave out to a returning player that surprised you the most this offseason?
Well, given how folks were talking about, Austin Reaves, and to be clear, I love Austin Reaves. I'm actually a big fan of his, and I'm not one of those folks that's going to, poo-poo it because other people are tired of him being praised. Well, I will state, when the season was over, you had folks talking about, he's going to get, some team is going to offer him 17 to 18 and going to price the Lakers out of it or make things, uncomfortable for him. And then when they wound up getting them for about the equivalent of like 12.5, over the course of 4 years, your average over the course of 4 years, I said, okay, well, you know what? That's a solid player at a decent rate. So I guess that was a surprise to me, just because of the talk. But the real surprise really was Gabe Vincent, because look, I'm not an insider. I don't have all the, I don't have, agents calling me every 5 seconds. I don't have coaches calling to cuss me out or text me or anything like that. So I didn't know that was even in the cards. And then suddenly, like right when free agency started, it was like, the Lakers got Gabe Vincent. It was like, wait, what? Oh, okay. Now, again, not a superstar, not, no expectations of being a superstar whatsoever. But in terms of filling a very specific role and giving good minutes at the guard position, I felt like that was a home run.
He brings like a really important element if his threes are going to fall. And like his shooting splits were kind of all over the place a lot of the times last year, but he can essentially be a 3-and-D guard, which is very important, with better size than, let's say, peak Patrick Beverly, who that's what he was it like, or Javon Carter, another someone who's actually a 3-and-D guard right now. Mm-hmm. And that's huge on this team when you have LeBron and even D'Angelo Russell as well. And he's like, there's some like live dribble playmaking there if you give him enough spacing. We saw it in Miami. That was my most surprising, like, oh, okay. I didn't think Miami was just going to let him and Strus just leave. Maybe they know something about the Dame trade that'll eventually end. Hopefully that doesn't date this podcast. Maybe it'll already be done by the time this goes out. But I think that's super intriguing. And he's someone who, I guess I would imagine that like he's coming off the bench to start the year, but it wouldn't surprise me if their best lineup is just going to include like Gabe Vincent is like in their best lineup with LeBron, AD, Austin Reaves, and then you kind of futz around with that fifth spot.
Yeah, I know we're going to get to lineups later, so I won't go there yet. But the next, the next line item, it will pretty much bring some of it out. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Whether it's because they've moved on from D'Lo, and I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying that there's certainly a possibility, or simply because he outplayed him and worked his way into the lineup. I would not be shocked if Gabe Vincent is starting in the backcourt at some point.
I'm going to jump to Austin Reaves just because you already mentioned him.
Okay.
Well, let's start here. So you had talked about how everyone said he was going to get the poison pill, which could have been up to about $100 million. And we won't get into the complexities of it. We talked about it on off-season pods. Were you surprised that no one tried to even partial poison pill where it was like, okay, it's worth 75 million over 4 years rather than 100?
I never know what to truly believe when it comes to NBA rumors. And you know what I mean by that? I'll be frank. I think a lot of the rumors are conjecture. I think a lot of the rumors, and I'm talking about by well-known folks as well as just regular run-of-the-mill jerks like me. I think a lot of it is like, oh, I could see that happen, because quite frankly, there's so many crazy ones that that come out that it makes it so that like I said, I don't know what to trust. I thought we would at least get someone that offered him, in the 16, 17 million range. And I was actually worried about that. But then I thought, you know what? I would be comfortable at that rate. But had it been, 25, hey, go with God, Austin. Hey, look. Again, and there will be Lakers fans that get upset with that. Like, oh, no, you got to keep it. At that rate, it would have been a different conversation. But where he fits in, I'm very happy.
I will say, I wish there was more gamesmanship in the NBA where I criticized mostly the Spurs because I just feel like, and even I didn't like him on the Thunder necessarily, but like those were the teams where the moves they made with their cap space, those could have waited. Tie up your cap space for a couple days and either mess with the Lakers payroll or get someone who could maybe grow with your team. And we saw it a little bit where Utah, so creative with the Paul Reed offer sheet to Philly. I want more of that. This isn't me being a cap dork. This is me wanting teams to fuck over other teams.
I'm not a cap dork, but I'm here for that exact type of chaos, except for the Lakers. Like, hey, don't do that with us. But with everyone else, no. Jokes aside, I'm here for that type of gamesmanship. I'm here for that exact type of strategy. To be honest with you, I was surprised when Philly maxed that. Maxed it. I thought,
really?
Well, not that there's anything against Paul Reed. It's just because I keep on wondering what the hell are they doing in Philly. But that's another conversation. That's another preview pod that I'm sure you've already done, or will eventually do.
Yeah.
You got to get my guy Jack on for that one. But no. I'm here for it. I would love to see it. Even if it was at the expense of my team, I think that type of stuff is entertaining. So I'm right there with you.
So I'm sure people, just because it's the Lakers, were very exposed to Austin Reaves last year. But I also think that a lot of the talk with him can be dismissed because it's, he plays for the Lakers. If he was on the Hornets, would we be talking about him in this vein? Probably a fair question. What impressed you the most, though, about his development last season?
I felt a lot better with the ball in his hands. Then obviously as a rookie, and that's not really like groundbreaking analysis. That a second-year player, I felt better about him with the ball in his hands, but as a rookie, it was like, okay, that he can be a rotation guy. And then last year I said, oh no, he can be a lead initiator. And look, he's never. I'm not anticipating Austin converting and just being a straight playmaking point guard or anything like that. But he at least showed the ability to create, not just for himself, but for others. He's a willing guy, whether that's willing to make find the open guy, willing to get back and get into the passing lane, willing to take get back and take a charge or whatever the case may be. So I was impressed by just the confidence that he very clearly has. And I know that some listeners and viewers may say like, well, of course he's confident. There's a difference. There is a difference between the confidence to make the league and the confidence to hit game winners and then look LeBron James directly in his face and say, "Bitch, I'm him." That's a different level of confidence, and I like a little bit of that. More I think we'll see him challenged a great deal this year. But I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say I think Austin Reaves is going to be in the running for most improved player this year. I think that is coming.
I haven't dug enough into like the thought about the award yet. I'm just so in
Yeah.
team look ahead mode. I do have this is a stat I pulled up just for you for this podcast. Austin Reaves, let's frame it this way: 190 players last year finished at least 200 drives. 190 players. Here is the list of every single one of those players who shot 60% on those drives while also having an assist rate of at least 10. So like this isn't really cherry picked. 200's high volume. We're talking 60% shooting, a 10 assist rate. There's Austin Reaves, there's Nikola Jokic, there's Domas Sabonis, there's Luka Doncic. That is literally it.
Pretty damn good company.
And he's none of those players. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But he wasn't working like the Lakers did not have pristine spacing last year. Like, this is someone who's shooting 60% on drives, causing chaos enough to set other people up where their half court spacing or even in transition, it was kind of funky.
Yes. It doesn't look like your traditional, like, start from one place and blitz to the basket. He's a little bit herky jerky, but he's also got some quickness. Austin Reaves is a ball player. Again, if you're asking Austin Reaves to be your second or third best player, you're probably not going to be a great team. You're going to be, you may be competitive depending upon the mix, probably not going to be a great team. But if you're asking Austin Reaves to be your fourth or fifth best player and simply contribute where he can fit in, where he can fit in, then you're cooking with hot grease. And I think that's where the Lakers are right.
And look, it was the ball handling and decision-making for me was what I was most impressed with. I'd probably like to, this steps too much on the toes of the next question. I kind of have to monitor, like he shot like 50+% from mid-range the past 2 years. He shot 80% at the rim last year. And I'm like, there's no way that's sustainable. But you know what he shot in year one? He shot 71% at the rim, which is still just a ridiculous clip. He's probably one of the most fascinating players to me because I don't actually think people outside of Lakers fandom or media really understand how much of a swing piece that this guy is. And so with that in mind, what are you watching most closely for as he enters year three?
How his body looks specifically to like now that he's been in multiple training camps, multiple, you've been with an NBA franchise for multiple years, coming off of the FIBA experience. So how his body, how his body looks, how he reacts on the defensive end. Now, here's the thing. The funniest thing about, especially with NBA fans, is sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, but like I will cherry pick stuff, or like say for instance, like in the Olympics, like where there were like 5 possessions where like he got hunted or whatever the case may be. Where it's like if you look at it, every other possession someone else was getting hunted, so like everyone is getting hunted at some point or another. But he's a willing defender. He is. He's not. Like, I don't necessarily love him defending, threes and fours, which at times, he was asked to do that in the Olympics as well as on this Lakers team last year. But if you put him on ones and twos, I feel pretty damn good about it. I actually want to see, what his defense is like this year. If his conditioning is just that, a tick better, his athleticism just a tick better, and honestly, how he reacts to being pressured with the ball. Because again, first year it was shaky. So, and understandably shaky, as a rookie. Last year, there were some spots where I was like, but honestly, as one of the things I like most about him is he's not going to be one of those guys that hangs his head. He's like, all right, bring it, let's go. You got me a couple times, let's go. And it's for that reason that I'm expecting him to be even slightly better at handling that type of actual ball pressure. So really, it's just a matter of it. Like he doesn't have to like come out and change anything tremendously. It's just making slight improvements across the board, and I think that's what he's going to do. That's what I anticipate out of him.
I think what could also help him defensively is I like sort of the assignment archetype they threw him on, which was mostly there were some stationary players, but it was like kind of the movement shooters where you didn't have to necessarily defend at the point of attack all the time. Now that you have Gabe Vincent, if he's hitting enough of his threes, and as long as you can steal minutes, however long you need with Jared Vanderbilt on the court, there are guys that I don't know how insulated he needs to be, but you can insulate him against having to defend either too far up or just like in terms of size or too far up the, let's say the talent pecking order to where I don't want him defending necessarily Damian Lillard or bad example, who might not be in the Western Conference anymore. I don't want him defending Steph Curry like those weren't the assignments he was typically tackling. So, but I would be with you that I'm very interested to see the step forward defensively. And I think the other thing for me, and this is, I'm only going here because you already outlaid the defensive part of it. I want to see if the 3-point volume can be nudged up a bit, because I think that would be huge for the Lakers. He's clearly comfortable getting off those in-between shots, but you look at him, the role he's going to play, a lot of 2 and 3, 4 attempts per 36 minutes is just, it's too low. I think it needs to come up to, and look, especially if he's going to shoot 39% on them, you'd like to see that come up to like probably double, like per minute, like to 7 or 8. And I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but I think it could make, not just looking at, how much is he going to average? How good is he? But if he's taking more threes and defenses are guarding him because he's taking more threes, that opens stuff for everybody else.
So here's one for you. I need that to happen because I don't need the bigs out there shooting them. Okay. I recognize that Christian.
You don't like the Jared Vanderbilt corner threes? What's wrong with those?
All right. So here's the deal. If he can just knock down league average from wide open corner threes, I'm fine with it. But if you can't, then no, I don't want you jacking them up. And the funniest thing is, like, people, when I let out with I don't want the big shooting threes, people will automatically think I'm throwing shade at AD. I'm not, even though I don't need you shooting those either. But it's really just a matter of, I would still prefer, and I recognize it's an outside in game, in a lot of cases these days, but I would still prefer a little bit of variance. So if you can knock them down, take them. Austin Reaves, get that up to at least 6 or 7. Take them. Gabe Vincent, if this is a good year, take them. And guys and Taurean Prince, take them. But if you're giving me 30%, I don't need that. I do not need AD shooting 4 threes a game at 30%. I do not need, if Vanderbilt can't get that over at least 34 or 35%, I don't need you taking 5 or 6 of those a game, because it's a wasted possession at that point.
Yeah, there's value in the volume, but only if, and I'll compare it to, he's not a big. I've always used Marcus Smart as the example. He's improved as a shooter. He's cut out a lot of the junky off the dribble attempts. He's not a great shooter, but defenses, if you look at the the difference between how they defend, let's say Dillon Brooks versus Marcus Smart. So like that volume from Marcus Smart, even if he's only hitting 32, 33% matters. It's a different story with Jared Vanderbilt because he's taking them. No one cares.
No one cares. And his man literally says, like, all right, go for it. And it looks for someone to box out. Again, this isn't hating on him. I'm hopeful that he's been in the lab this summer and has improved upon that design. But I'm not going to hold my breath just yet.
What was the move or contract or whatever that you have the most questions about from the offseason?
All right. So I want to choose my words carefully, because D-Lo fans are truly one of the more sensitive bunches that I've seen in a minute. And they're going to be mad about me just saying that. And I don't care. Y'all are, and y'all know it. That's the one that intrigues me, simply because I look at the potential of some of the younger guys. I look at the fact that he brought in Gabe Vincent, and I say, that is a good number for D'Lo. That's also a good number in case in the event that A, he's underperforming, or B, the fit simply is no longer good, or whatever the case may be. But he can, I look at that as a contract that can be moved. Again, I'm not anticipating it. I'm not even hoping for it. I like D'Angelo Russell, but if if the fit ultimately doesn't work, or if he's not getting the minutes that he's ultimately going to feel that he's entitled to because someone else has taken them, then that's the one that when I look at the page, I go, that's the one that stands out.
Yeah, that deal is made to trade because he waived his implicit no trade clause as part of it. Mm-hmm. So there's the player option on it, but it's so short term. I almost wonder, like, not only was it negotiated to trade, but I'm like, was this negotiated to trade by the February deadline? I'm not talking about next offseason. Like, that's what this contract feels like. And if he's shooting, when he was in Minnesota, and I think Timberwolves fans were kind of out on him, but like if he was hitting enough of his pull-up jumpers, he's giving you some pick and roll orchestration, he's providing that with the Lakers, even if it doesn't look the cleanest, or maybe the advanced analytics won't love him. Like, there will be teams that'll just be like, hey, we need the scoring. And look, he shot, to his credit, he shot what did he shoot in LA last year? 41% on 7 attempts from 3 per 36. That teams will look at that.
Look, people on Twitter can talk all the talk they want. We can joke and we can key about it. But yes, teams will absolutely look at that. And again, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but of the deals, that's the one I look at and say, like, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I nixed this question because it's fun at this early just to focus on the basketball, but he is clearly the player most likely to be traded on the roster this season. Like, I don't know who you would put in front. Like, unless you're just like, oh no, they're going to trade like, oh, they're going to get rid of Jackson Hayes or offload him or something. Like,
okay.
Fine. But like, he's just, you look at the salary, the deal. I think my most, and not a concern to where I think it will end up imploding, but I just have questions. I still don't understand the theory of Rui Hachimura. And it's just, you look at the money relative to the cap going up, like it's fine. Like, I mean, I was a little bit shocked that he got 3 year and 51 on like fully guaranteed. Like there was no kind of team outs there. What am I missing something? What is the fit for him on this team? It feels like unless Cam Reddish and Max Christie kind of pop, like, are they going to need him to play some 3? Like, what is just the theory? What is the best case scenario? What's the vision for Rui Hachimura on this team?
Honestly,
Nikola Jokic stopper, obviously. But
no. Beyond those pipe dreams, and you know what? Shout out to him for doing a solid job for like a quarter and a half. I was right there, like, yo, no. Truth be told, I think Rui is a solid player. He's a guy that gives them that intermediate, mid range, a ton of mid range offense. He's an outlet guy. He's also a guy that can play 4, 5, and if you depending upon the matchup, he can play some 3. But it's never a bad thing in my estimation to have forwards that are interchangeable that can defend multiple positions. I'm not saying he's a lockdown guy. I'm not saying that he's going to lock down Nikola Jokic in the conference finals or anything like that. But he's at least a big, strong body that you can throw it. You can throw it at the bigger scorers and some of the smaller scoring power forwards. You can actually put him out there. And what he showed, especially during that second half with the Lakers, is if he gets it going offensively, he can really keep it rolling. So again, you probably don't want him as like your first or second option. You don't want him even as your third option. But if he's a guy that's coming off your bench and he's like a 5th, 6th guy in your rotation or 7th guy, honestly, I don't see the problem with it. Maybe I'm in love a little bit more with him specifically because I watched him up close and personal, and he was doing quality things for my squad. Most recent.
I'm just some of the sustainability of what we saw in offense from him is just like he shot an astronomical clip on 2s that were 14 plus feet away once he got to LA. Is that efficiency going to hold up? He wasn't hitting his 3s at an ultra high clip. And part of me wonders, he feels like he's better suited in more of a play finishing role. And it's not like he was holding on to the ball a ton in LA. I want to make that clear. Like, do they have the spacing?
Lots of back cuts.
Yeah. Do they have the spacing to continuously capitalize off of that is still a question for me, because if he can give you, I don't even want to say like the peak postseason version of Rui on offense, but if that's like 75% of that, like then okay, like now with the defensive malleability, now we're kind of cooking. I just still have questions about it.
Oh yeah, no, nothing is guaranteed. I mean, there are question marks up and down the roster, but I honestly think the same can be said for a lot of rosters at this stage. The sustainability of the offense is definitely an intriguing one. Like, so say for instance, his shot just goes into the shitter. That would make that deal, not as comfortable, in Lakers land. But I don't know. He too, former high pick, a guy that there was some promise there. Who knows? What is it? He was a Washington thing, or he was a Washington with. I don't know what the case was there, but what I do know is when I saw him most recently playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, he looked like a different player. So the hope again is that he can carry some of that.
He's probably the second most compelling player for me on this roster behind Austin Reaves, because you might have sold me on Max Christie though. So he's in the top 3 of that list of compelling players, just because I'm still so curious about him. The Christian Wood signing, only for minimum money. So it's not, it's zero risk, but I guess it's twofold here. One, is he just like, is the vision, we know what he brings offensively. Is the vision just, he is going to be your first big off the bench? Is it how are you playing him at the 4, or are you playing him next to AD predominantly? Or are you playing him at the 5 without AD predominantly? And then the second part of this is every single year, there's the Anthony Davis doesn't want to be a center. The Lakers have planned their rotation around that apparently. And then Anthony Davis just spends the vast majority of his minutes at center. So maybe answer the second one can we or do we really even have to talk about this? We're just like Anthony Davis is a center. In the most important units, Anthony Davis is going to be your center.
Exactly. And that, it's funny. My first reaction was going to be like, can we move past this? Not to you, but I'm saying like the general conversation with Anthony Davis is like, oh God, he doesn't want to play center. It's like, yeah, he doesn't want to, but he does. And he does it at a very high level on a lot of nights. And when he's healthy, I'll take him. I'll take him against a lot of centers out there. Matter of fact, just about all of them. I have no problem acknowledging that. But the reality is this: we don't have to bullshit. Christian Wood is not only a potential contributor, but he's an insurance policy as well. Because as much as I would love to say, look, I would love to tell you that LeBron James and Anthony Davis are going to play 65 to 70 games each this year. I'd love to. I'm not going to tell you that because there's absolutely no guarantees of that. And if you have two guys that you are going to be so heavily reliant upon when it really matters, it doesn't hurt to bring in a guy like Christian Wood, especially on a flyer like this, end of the summer, essentially a vet minimum deal, because ultimately it's one of two ways with him. Either he buys in and recognizes, hey, my ass might be out the league, next year if I don't, or if he doesn't and he doesn't play well, then you can go ahead and ship him, or you can just straight out cut him, and you really don't lose all that much. So for me, it's like gambling with money that you already with winnings. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm not going into my pocket. These are all, I'm just going to gamble with my winnings. Am I anticipating just a stellar year out of Christian Wood? No, I'm not. Would I love to be surprised? Yes, I would. Would I love for him to say, hey, Jabari, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. Excuse my language. You said fuck earlier, so I
oh yeah, there's profanity is allowed. Yeah.
Okay. But I would love for him to say, Jabari and everyone, Jabari et al., y'all shut the fuck up. I'm coming to play. I'm going to earn my way back into the great, into being considered, one of the fun young, fun bigs, that can do some things, do different things on the court. I would love for that. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I think that's what the thought there is. In the event that, AD goes down or LeBron goes down, in the event that he can put it together, you've got a great situation. And worst case scenario, you open up a roster spot, at some point during the year.
I think there's also a chance offensively. I don't know. I mean, I can see the theory of how it will work defensively just because of what Anthony Davis and Jared Vanderbilt are able to do. So you can play Christian Wood as sort of like a stationary low man while those guys are going to just play up higher. But like offensively, and I mean, this is a question too. Has Anthony Davis's like efficient jump shot, like has the ship sailed on that? And if it has, between him and Vando being such shaky perimeter shooters, Christian Wood can do that. Like he has ball skills and he's going to want to explore them, but like defenses will respect him when he's standing beyond the arc.
So I don't know if you've no, we've never watched a game together. One of my favorite aspects of the game is big to big passing. Like straight up, I love that shit. Like you get bigs working together. I'm like, whoo, like the former coach in me comes out, and I'm just like, oh man, this is fantastic. I expect to see some two-man game between Anthony Davis and Christian Wood when they play together. I expect to see some high-low action between the two of them, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. To answer your question, directly, yeah, I'm not anticipating Anthony Davis like shooting 50% or higher from the mid-range. I'm not expecting that. As long as he's respectable, I'm okay with him taking it. I see this thing. I don't have a problem with him relying on the mid-range game because that's kind of what that's where he's comfortable. I just don't want to see it trailing back out to the 3-point line. But truth be told, last year, if you look at the bulk of what Anthony Davis was doing, he was going to work in the paint. Yes, towards the end of the year, he did start to push it out a little bit. Obviously, he's probably dealing with things that would cause that. But for the most part, he did a lot of his damage in the paint. And in fact, before that, that one injury where he was out for like 15 to 20 games or whatever, he was leading the league in point paints, paint points and paint touches and all. Like so, for my money, I'm okay with what with what AD has going on.
And look, to his credit, he did shoot 44% from mid-range. To your point about him working in the paint a lot, he I don't think it was a career high, but it was pretty close to a career high share of his looks were coming in that 4 to 14 foot range, like outside the restricted area, but still in the paint. He shot an above average clip from there. It was around 46, 45%, whatever it was. I do still feel like he becomes, and maybe it's a later in the season fatigue thing, post-injury thing. There are just times where he becomes way too reliant on the jumper. And I would just love, like we've seen it in the bubble. We've seen flickers and flashes of it in previous years before that. If he was just like this, like, I don't know, reliable pick and pop option from three, like it could just change the entire like fabric of the Lakers offense. And look, we're in year 11, year 10 for him, whatever it is. You can't, if only this player had a consistent 3-point shot. Like that's a pretty big if.
Yes. And not only that, you know what it's like? It's like when we go back and we say, like, man, and allow me to finish before people tear my head off about this, because I'm not putting AD in the same conversation with Shaq in any way. I'm just stating. It's like when we go back and we say, if Shaq could have just made his free throws, it's like, you know what? He was pretty damn good even with that. He's pretty damn good even with that. And right now, all things considered, when Anthony Davis is healthy and he's out there busting his ass defensively, and he's literally changing games and series, defensively, I'll take it, man. I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to somebody that is that down.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic, like he can get the level of defense he played, and I'm specifically talking about that Golden State series. Mm-hmm. I saw him do things that even after watching him after all these years, that I'm not sure I've seen him do, but that I was still in awe of, where it looks like he is teleporting around the court. And so defensively, like alone with him is what he is on offense right now. I don't know if you can call him a stable top 10 player because of the injuries and there's some swings on his efficiency offensively, like from the perimeter, but he has top 10 capacity. The player that he is right now, that's a big deal. So I don't mean to take away from that. It's just you look at the jumper and it's like the form is like kind of pretty. Like, why isn't it going? There's too much. Sometimes there's too much like, daring do with it, like using it too much in his hands. But like the actual jumper is just, I'm not talking about just the actual jumper. I look at it and I'm like, I feel like that should be going in.
Yeah, no, I mean, he clearly works at it. Like he's not like one of those players that just like, yeah, I'm just going to figure it out. Like these are things that he's clearly working at, but for whatever reason, yeah, like it. I didn't think he was terrible last year. He was better last year. It honestly, without even looking at the numbers, I would guess that he was better last year than the year before. I just don't anticipate him getting into above 50. Like it would be lovely. Much like the last player, I would love, much like Christian Wood, I would love for AD to say, hey, you know what, Jabari, shut the fuck up. I got this. I would love to, but I'm also okay if he just does what he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, look, he shot technically better from three than he did the season before outside garbage time, 26% versus, what was he, 19% in 2021? Am I reading that correctly right now?
No, you were reading that correctly, yes.
So, and look, his mid-range efficiency was up 44%, so I had that percentage wrong, but I was close. At the rim, he's just consistently up in the above 70s ever since arriving in LA and dating back to New Orleans. So, pretty damn good play already. I will say I'm kind of fascinated. I don't want to spend more time on the Christian Wood, Anthony Davis thing, but like, if you can even just, they can be interchangeable where, Christian Wood is taking the Jared Vanderbilt shots from the corner while like AD is serving as the big and LeBron's the ball handler. But like, if you could also have it where AD, give him some rest where he doesn't have to screen. He doesn't have this on-ball usage. If he can hit those Jared Vanderbilt type looks because you have Christian Wood to screen and roll, and he can even make passes off it. He can put the ball on the floor, make extra decisions off the dribble. There's like, I try not to inflate the importance of minimum signings, but like there's a dimension in which Christian Wood, at least on offense, is like super valuable to this team.
I'll take the ride with you and say it's boom or bust. Like, I don't think it's going to be in between. I think it's either going to be, wow, fuck, they got one, for whatever the reason, nobody else was giving them a chance and they got him, or yeah, that's the Christian Wood we know. I'm hopeful, but I'm also not an idiot. Like, I see the track history.
So To now finally move into some bigger picture stuff, do you expect the starting lineup to kind of remain the same as it was where it ended, where Jared Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell will start with Reaves, LeBron, and AD, or do you see the potential, whether it's immediately or mid-season, without a trade, let's say, for some shakeups there?
I think there's a chance for shakeups, and we can be straight up about this. I alluded to it. We both alluded to it earlier. I can see, like depending upon, it could be circumstantial, it could be matchup related. I can see Gabe Vincent working his way into that starting lineup. I could also see, depending upon the matchup, I can see them saying like, oh, let's throw two bigs out there and throw Christian Wood into the starting lineup, especially if they are able to have that type of connection that we were just talking about. So at the very least, I wouldn't be stunned if ultimately, like they do some playing around and like say Vando's shot just never comes to fruition, and it simply is what it is. He's a good player to have in your rotation, but you might not necessarily want to start the game off with like playing 4-on-5 offensively, and then all of a sudden that opens the door for somebody else. I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think it starts off, at least initially, as we left off.
How do you see I'm kind of fascinated by the secondary front court rotation. We've already talked about Christian Wood. We talked a little bit about Rui, but so you have Davis and Vando as your, and let's look at the 4 or 5 specifically. You have Davis and Vando as like that base 4 or 5 in the starting unit. How are we fleshing it out after that? Is it like, is it Rui and Christian Wood are the primaries there? Are we seeing, does Jackson Hayes sneak into that at all? And then there's also, we haven't talked about him a ton, but I think like Torrey Prince was an excellent pickup for this team. You play him at the 4, that really opens things up as well.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. They have flexibility, and you know what? This is a partial answer to something else that's coming up. But the flexibility that's there, the interchangeability that's there. Again, hats off to Rob. I cannot praise him enough. He deserved all of the criticisms that he was receiving 2 years ago. And in return, he deserves all of the praise because he's done a fantastic job of solidifying that roster. They've got the options, whether it's going a little bit smaller and putting Torrey and Prince at the 4, or going a little bit bigger, putting Christian Wood at the 4. I'll be honest with you, I don't think that question can be answered until we see how the parts fit. And I'm not trying to dodge it, but I really don't have an answer for it until I kind of see how all these guys fit together. But the great luxury is they've got a lot of different directions they can go.
I can't believe it's taken this long to get to him, but LeBron James, he's pretty good and important. I think he's all right. Yeah. Should we just assume he had off-season foot surgery? And I apologize when this is coming out if we've already found out about it. It should be out before Lakers Media Day, but should we assume he just had off-season foot surgery?
I'm under that assumption. I looked at what his foot looked like. I looked at the fact that he had prior to even coming back in the postseason, what it looked like. And it was very obvious that there were some problems structurally there. It was very obvious that he was favoring it. Anytime he would go down, it was the collective, clutching of my own pearls and gasping because that foot looked rough. I'm hopeful that he did. I hope he got all of the rest that he needed and he was able to rehab, fully. But I'll say this. If he's not say for instance, his body were not ready to go, I would say, hey, let him wait. They already proved they made it to the conference finals after a 2-10 start last year. I wouldn't anticipate that even without him in the lineup. But I'm saying I would much prefer a healthy LeBron over the course of the season and down the stretch of the season than trying to, worrying about, rushing him back in there. If for instance, his body were not ready. But I'd say this, and I'm sure by the time this comes out, we'll have camp footage of him, cocking it back from the free throw line or a step in front of the free throw line and looking like he's, never missed a beat.
I don't really know age 39 season, the foot injury, and that's a fickle, the foot. I know he went to the LeBron James of feet at one point, but I don't even know what the fuck that means.
Have you seen LeBron's feet?
No, I haven't looked at.
It's an interesting comment. Look at his feet. Any of your listeners and viewers out there, take a look at LeBron's feet. That's a funny. It's a funny statement.
Is this like an OnlyFans situation? Like the LeBron's feet?
No, it's not that. I mean, it might be somebody's kink, but his toes are deformed and from just constant pressure and playing and whatever the case may be. Yeah, he's got jacked up feet. But anyhow, sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
No. First of all, That's absolutely germane. I need to know that. So thank you for it. it felt like there was regression last year, and I don't know how much of it was the foot stuff. He became a little bit more reliant on the mid-range, which I didn't love. But then also it's like he got to the rim overall at the same rate as the year before. He shot, I should bring this up so I'm not getting it wrong. Yeah, I mean, there is the past 3 years, he has shot at least 76% at the rim outside of garbage time, 75% last year. Like, do we brace for any regression at this point? Is there even a chance where it's like the spacing's a little better? There's a healthier AD. There's Austin Reaves making a jump. Our lineups are a little bit more flexible. LeBron shoots better from three. Is it just maybe there's no regression? Like we shouldn't even cake in the 5% or whatever regression that we're bracing for.
I think what LeBron is what it's pretty clear at this point. Like he's still a top line offensive like genius that is still capable of doing a lot of the same things offensively. Is he every bit as fast? No. Does he jump as high? No. But does he still look like an absolute physical freak out there, even in coming up on 39 years old? Yes, he does. Do I anticipate him? And I'm hope now this is wishful thinking. Do I anticipate him playing less and having less less of a work share throughout the course of the long regular season? Yes, I do. But I will not equate that to an actual regression. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he'll pick his spots, and I think he'll ramp it up when when it's time to ramp it up. Whether that's big moments, big games, big stretches, or down the stretch.
I know I didn't include this in the outline. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there like an aspect on the court that you view from him that's critical to optimizing his aging curve now moving forward? Is it really, now Austin Reaves can shoulder more of the ball handling and you have Gabe Vincent? Is it that is that really what it is? So it's like, maybe we're using him more as a shooter, play finisher type deal.
Exactly that. Use him as a finisher. You're never going to have a situation where the ball's not in LeBron's hand at some point. You know what I'm saying? LeBron, and quite frankly, it shouldn't be.
We were told differently during the Magic Johnson era, I believe. Let's get Dennis Schroeder.
We were, and we recognized very quickly, oh no, that's not a good idea. And LeBron's system is still LeBron. It just is. It doesn't matter what anyone wants it to be or what we want to call it. It's still the LeBron system. It simply is going to be. But what I would love to see is him not being forced to carry the load again over the course of the regular season. When when we get to 16 versus instead of the 82, hey, LeBron, that's what the money is for. This is what we need you for. But over the course of the regular season, yes, I absolutely think that they brought in guys like Gabe Vincent and like the improvement from Austin Reaves and additional requests of Austin Reaves. I think that's absolutely the direction that they're going to go, and they should.
And is this like an oversimplification? Does the idea of LeBron as the screener does that help at all sort of limit his usage, or is then their wear and tear as the screener? And two, does it just intrigue you at all? Because very quickly, the numbers the past 2 seasons, the Lakers have explored it more. He's finished about 140, I think, possessions as the pick and roll man. And he's averaging like 1.35 points per possession on those touches. That's really good.
I think that trend will continue. I think we'll see even more of it this year. Honestly, I love that. I think we'll see. Look, again, they're never taking the ball out of his hands, but I think we'll see the ball in his hands less. Simply to protect him from him. Like sometimes, you know what I'm saying? You got to protect him from himself. Protect look, Darvin Ham. I was far less critical of him than other people because sometimes people are just unrealistic when it comes to, first of all, a rookie head coach, regardless of whether he's been in the league forever, but a rookie head coach taking over that specific situation and managing all of those egos and all of those personalities and doing and being able to reset on the fly. I think he did a tremendous job. But here's the deal. That was last year and this is this year. So the expectations are higher now. I'm going to need you to manage LeBron better. I'm going to need you to not ask everything of him and not allow him to be on the court for 39 and 40 minutes a night for back-to-back nights when it's February. I'm going to need you to be able to – I'm going to need somebody to help Darvin from himself in that regard.
Well, and it's also, as you mentioned, saving LeBron from himself too. I know he's good at picking his spots, but he's also and he'll let you know that he's going to want to win these games. He's going to want to play these minutes type deal. So he's probably better. he's more balanced, I think, than other stars where there's like the Chris Paul end of the spectrum where it's, whoa, I'm not playing fewer minutes tonight, or I'm not taking a rest night. I think he's better than that, but there's also just like, he wants to log those minutes or to do that because if everything's not perfect, he's going to want the agency to send out the sub tweets, the sub quotes about we need this and that. And that
It
kind of,
in, not out. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. How many years ago was that? That
Hey,
now.
shout out to Kevin.
So, and you kind of mentioned like this dovetails with what we were just talking about with LeBron. The Lakers had a very good offseason. Is it overblown a little bit in the sense though, where like if they're going to actually improve or replicate the success in the sense of they were a Western Conference Finals team last year, is it more about, well, we get a healthier LeBron, a healthier AD, and a leap from Austin Reaves, and now there is something that they have not prioritized, even when kind of looking at their championship season, like that offseason, they went and traded Danny Green for Dennis Schroeder. They've not really prioritized continuity and augmenting what's already in place as much as they have this offseason. What's bigger, the additions they made and the retention, or like the additions they made, or the prospect of continuity? And hey, at least one of LeBron and AD probably has to play more minutes than they did last season, plus the Austin Reaves development.
I feel like the additions were gravy on top of a good meal. You know what I'm saying? Like I think what they did, prior to the deadline, bringing in Rui, bringing in Vando, bringing in D'Lo, obviously finding a new location, for Russ, that he's hopefully happy in. I think that was the big bite, and then all of these were okay. How can we get how do we support and and prop up what we already have, and kind of what you were just saying, they did a good job of that. So I think while yes, the offseason signings are important, and I can see them playing like tremendous roles throughout the course of the season, and hopefully deep into the postseason. I think it is the continuity. It is the fact that you're hoping that you get a healthy AD, you're hoping that you get a now healthy LeBron, or that you're able to maintain their health over the course of the season. I think all of it is important, but like we don't have to mince words. The Lakers go as far as LeBron James and Anthony Davis take. And quite frankly,
Whoa,
Anthony Davis,
hot take.
Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis. Well, here's the hot take. Anthony Davis was their best player last year, and he's going to have to be he's going to have to be head and shoulders their best player this year if they want to reach their ultimate goals. And I think, look,
he was their best player last year. AD was too. Like
yes.
I don't know that was like he was clearly their best player.
He 100% was. He was their most impactful player. Their most consistently dominant player, and they're going to absolutely need that from him. They're just going to need it, for 70 games, and that's the key.
Two more questions before we reach the cookie cutter portion. What do you think of Jalen Hood-Schifino? Just like as in the short term, long term, I understand the theory of him on defense. I don't right now don't love the fit for him on the offensive end. If you actually want this person to contribute to your team, either as an on-court asset or develop into a trade asset.
And this is going to sound terrible because I hate even going here, but it does feel like a developed trade. And look, again, I hope to be wrong. I hope he will shock us and force his way into the rotation somehow. Like I would love for that to be the case, but the windows, you know what I'm saying? Like his development window compared to LeBron's and perhaps even AD's championship window, they don't match up. And that's not to say like, oh, just get rid of him. But what I mean is, I don't know that he'll get the opportunity to like show this year. I hope so, but I don't necessarily anticipate.
I'd probably agree with you. And the final thing here is, do you think even when this team was at its peak, like what they do and can do in transition, or at least just getting into their early offense when it's not necessarily transition, that's where they're going to do most of their most lethal work. Mm-hmm. They were still at their best last year, hovering around the bottom 10 of half court offense. Do you think that they have the talent, the developmental prospects, the requisite shooting to being demonstratively better when their offense is forced to slow down?
I think they can be, but it obviously is contingent upon shooting. It's contingent, like is Torian Prince going to be, somewhere around 38, 40% from deep? Is Gabe Vincent going to get, I think last year he was around 33, the year before that he was around 37. If he can be 37, 38, hey, we're having a different conversation. It's Austin Reaves improving, increasing his 3-point output. Is he, maybe if he doesn't double it, maybe he just he shoots 6 or 7 a game. You know what I'm saying? And with the same type of efficiency, I think then you will see that. Honestly, the Lakers' offense wasn't terrible. It was really bad to start the year, like atrociously bad, and they kind of just worked their way up. You know what I mean? But at the end of the year, I didn't feel like it was, like we were watching like just an absolutely atrocious offense. I think you simply build upon what you had, and with those extra pieces, I do think it could get. I think it should get better. I don't necessarily know if it will be demonstratively better, but I think it should be better.
I wish I had more insight. I honestly have no idea. I think it probably comes down to just what is Austin Reaves shooting on volume? Does LeBron's 3-point shooting improve? Are they getting enough like sort of shooting and 3-point volume? Or just, and not, I shouldn't even say shooting and 3-point volume, but are there threats enough on those other, like on just every spot that's not the Anthony Davis, LeBron spot? Is there enough of outside threats to open up the floor for everything they want to do? If they, like Gabe Vincent, what's he shooting from 3? How are defenses guarding him? How much is Taurean Prince playing and what's he shooting from 3? And how are defensive guarding him? Has Christian Wood been able to stay on the floor? Have you gotten, is Jared Vanderbilt and or Rui Hachimura hitting more of their perimeter attempts? That's just, I feel like that's very boilerplate, but that's the stuff that I think would go a long way.
No, you're exactly right. Like it might, like these might not be sexy answers, but those are the answers. Like that's what it will, that's what will decide. So no, I don't.
Jabari, are you ready for the cookie cutter portion of the podcast?
I'm ready for him. I'm ready for him.
Are there any underrated, under the radar strengths and or weaknesses, concerns about this team we haven't touched upon yet?
The depth I've already mentioned it. The depth that they have at various positions is going to be a strength, I believe. Unless everything just falls off the cliff, I think they're going to have a very solid, honestly, all the way to 10-man, rotation. Like at times. The one thing, and I actually mentioned it earlier, the one thing that still concerns me is I would have preferred that they find a way to bring in a big body center. Just someone to eat minutes at certain times, whether it's guys are out or guys are dinged up, or you're playing against a Jokic and you need to have that. And maybe they say, hey, we got Rui. Maybe they are thinking that they, in spot situations, he can be utilized for stuff like that. But I would have felt better had they been able to, just bring in one more big. But I'm always not like that.
I know he's not a big body relative to centers, but like I would have preferred, he's still floating around out there as we're recording this. We're recording September 21st. Like Bismack Biyombo is just unsolid, and he had like really good moments for Phoenix the past 2 years.
Straight up, that is exactly okay. So when they signed Christian Wood, I was quiet about him on the timeline because I honestly don't like going back and forth with fans because they get sensitive and they get like they get all like, oh, if you don't agree with every single thing that I say and every aspect of it, then you're just an asshole. It's like, calm down, buddy. It's called an opinion. I was more in favor of signing Bismack Biyombo. I still am in favor of signing him, to this point, and having him, and quite frankly, as a luxury, like I absolutely would have. But that would make things more difficult and make things and make it so that maybe some one of those other younger guys wouldn't necessarily be able to be there. So I recognize like it wouldn't surprise me if over the course of the season they do find a way to bring that guy or that type of guy.
Looking at the 10-man rotation, or if people are going to, actually, oh no, they're going to go deeper, they're going to shorten it. The top 10 most played guys on a regular basis here. I have it as, I think when you look at it, there are, I'm going to say 8 locks for me. And that's LeBron, D'Lo, Austin Reaves, Vando, Davis, the starting 5. Then Vincent, Prince, and maybe you don't consider him lock, and then Rui. Would you agree with like those 8 guys? Or do you think there's some, like, is Prince not guaranteed minutes here? Like before going to the final 2 spots?
No, I would agree with those. I would anticipate Prince, not just, I would anticipate him earning a spot, but I would anticipate him being, because he's interchangeable, because you can play him at the 3 or the 4. Like, yes, I think he's going to get minutes. Beyond that, that's where it does get interesting because basically you've got like 5 guys for 2 spots. And I'm going to be sure I'll be straight. I think it really will just depend on who's playing the best, who's playing, who is contributing, who is bought in, who is locked in, who is making his teammates better. All of those basketball adages. But basically between Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, Max Christie, and possibly Hood, depending upon how things go, it really is going to be a matter of who is playing well at that time, or maybe even perhaps in a given game.
I think at least one of those two spots will definitely be Wood or Jackson Hayes. Depending on how invested they are in playing two bigs at once, like two true bigs, maybe it's both of them. I think if it were me, I would probably go Christian Wood to start just to see what that's not start lineup, but like he's guaranteed one of those spots. And then I don't know. I was going to say Max Christie. You might have sold me on just the Cam Reddish experiment again. Like I'm falling. It hasn't worked out, that meme. It hasn't worked out for everybody else, but maybe it'll work out for us. He might be but I would think it's one of Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes is how it would go. And then one of Cam Reddish or Max Christie as to round out the final two spots.
I think you hit it on the head. That is in all likelihood, given the rest of the roster. That's how.
This is always matchup dependent, but if you're picking a one size fits all crunch time unit for this team, what is it? It's LeBron, Austin Reaves, and Anthony Davis for sure. And then I think there's flexibility.
So my hesitation wasn't with those three. It wasn't with them. I'm thinking of the other two. Honestly, at least early on, because I do think they're going to give him an early opportunity. Christian Wood.
Wow. Okay.
I do.
All right.
I could see that. And then it really depends, man. It really is going to, for me, it's a matter of who's playing like matchup and who's playing well at a given time. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I saw them do this in 2020 and then and won a title that way. And I saw them do that in the next year. Obviously they didn't win a title, but it's matchup and situation dependent. I don't think you have just a set roster or a set lineup or even a set rotation. So if at a given time, if Cam is playing well and has had a good game or has had a hot hand or whatever, the matchup benefits him, I can see him being being in a closing lineup. If Taurean Prince, I can absolutely see Taurean Prince being in a closing lineup. It really does just depend.
I think I would go as sort of all right, we're going to pencil this in. Taurean Prince and Gabe Vincent, or depending on it, you probably could even just can you fit Vando in if Taurean Prince is shooting well enough? That's super big. If you have Prince, LeBron, Vando, Davis, and then Reaves would be a fascinating closing five.
And we can also be real about it. D'Lo will close some games. Now, there's going to be certain times where you absolutely can't have him on the court, but D'Lo will be closing some games too.
I mean, look, who's the
Rui as well? Shit.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't even think about him, but conceptually, forget about the numbers that you saw last season. But even, by the numbers, who's the best pull-up 3-point threat on this team? Maybe you think it's LeBron. It's probably D'Lo. It is D'Lo.
No, it is. It is. Now he's as streaky as hell at times, but over the course, you average it out, it probably is D'Lo. So,
is there a weirdo, wonky, unconventional, they're never going to try it but should try it lineup that you want to see?
Yes. I want AD at the 5. I want Vando at the 4. I want Braun at the 3. I want Cam at the 2, and I want Reaves at the 1. I want a just funky, long as all shit lineup that can pretty much change across the board.
So mine was similar. It's weirder, and I don't know what it would look like. I want AD. I want Vando. I want LeBron. I also want let's roll. If Vando is going to defend the point of attack anyway, what does it kind of look? Oh, and Prince was the other guy. Or no, it wasn't Prince. Christian Wood was the other guy.
Ooh, okay.
So let's go 3 bigs with LeBron, and then we'll throw Austin Reaves out there. But if that's too out there, give me throw Taurean Prince in the Christian Wood spot or maybe even the Vando spot. I'd be defensively LeBron, Vando, Taurean Prince, AD, and Reaves. I might have just said that could be a closing lineup for me, so that's not really that spicy, but I would love to see that.
Give me that, especially against a team like Minnesota. Give me that against honestly, I'm here for that line. I like either of those. Yes.
They're going to play 2 bigs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like, yeah, depending upon the matchup, I'm here for it.
so right now, their win total as of September 21st is 47.5. Are you taking
Mhm.
the over or the under on that?
Give me the over. I'm not saying they blow it out the water, but I think it's going to be somewhere between 48 and 52. I think they're going to be a top, 3 seed in the West. And I think they're going to be super competitive. Like this, I think this is. I'll say it. I think this is a title team. If now a lot of teams could say that, but we know that we have seen title teams. I have 100% seen title teams. That wasn't a knock. I was like, oh shit, he's a Knicks guy. Like that.
No, I get it.
No, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. This feels like one, but there are a lot of ifs given the overall questions about him.
So to that end, how many teams would you be prepared to guarantee will be better than the Lakers this season in the West?
In the you mean record wise in the regular season?
Yeah.
I think Denver's going to continue to steamroll. I'm not as high on the Suns as others, but I could see them winning a lot of regular season games. But after that, there's no reason. Could I see other teams? Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think the Lakers are right there.
I think that's the both the East and the West. And the East is more wide open than the West because Denver exists to me, and I think Phoenix is just. But I have Denver and Phoenix would be the teams I'm prepared to guarantee, and that's like it.
Yeah.
I will say the Lakers are one of the teams that are in like the. So if you told me, oh, the Pelicans were better than the Suns or the Nuggets, I would probably be shocked. If you told me the Lakers ended up being better, I would not be as shocked. So they're like the Golden State Warriors, Lakers, Kings tier, where it's like, could I see them finishing first or second in the West? Sure. But I would be prepared to guarantee that Phoenix and Denver are better than them. Mostly, and you can get into, well, what about the health with Phoenix? The Lakers have those same questions with AD and LeBron.
Yes, they do.
So that's where it gets difficult. I'm with you. I don't know if I'm going to hit the over or the under because availability is a lot. We haven't done that podcast, Grant and I, just yet. This team, based off how they kind of closed last year, and I think some of the pieces they've added, the development of Austin Reaves, if you can just get like relatively good, like if LeBron is finishing the season relatively healthy, if Anthony Davis is the same, this is a title contender. Like they are in I don't know if are they, when you're looking at the entire league, I probably have, again, Denver, Phoenix, definitely, I think definitely Milwaukee. Like those are probably the only 3 teams. If I'm looking at title stock, those are the 3 teams I'm prepared to just put in front of the Lakers right now. I don't trust Boston after the I'm not going to lie. Boston will still be good. I don't love what they're kind of pivoting into. I love Cleveland. That's the team that I get stuck on. I'm so high on Cleveland. So but we don't know what the fuck is going on in Philly as of right now. Will Miami have Dame? Will they not have Dame? So the Lakers might be, I mean, we don't know what's there are other teams that'll be on Golden State. The Kings need to be considered here. There are other teams that could have big seasons, but right now, to say the Lakers have a top 5 title stock, I think is fair. And then you can bring in the health caveats, but that's the same with almost every team. The health
exactly. And that's really where I am with it. They put themselves in the conversation and they're solidly in the conversation. But now they got to go out. They got to go out and either prove us right or prove us wrong. I actually did put money on them.
Oh, you did? Over. You bet on them to win the title?
No, on the over. No.
Oh, the over.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I traditionally have never bet title prior to the season, but I'll have fun with awards and over unders. So I will do that at times.
Is there anything at all that I haven't asked you about that you think we need to discuss before I let you go?
Where the parade is going to be this year, because we didn't get one in 2020.
Probably Denver. Probably somewhere in Colorado, I think, again, actually.
But, they haven't had theirs yet? Okay, if they want to have it late, that's cool. That's cool. No, I'm pretty sure you covered it all because you are a master at your craft.
I'm actually, and this is maybe a compliment to both of us, but I didn't want to go through every individual move or question necessarily. We didn't talk a ton about Jackson Hayes or I think we did a good job covering this, and under 75 minutes for us is pretty good. You and I normally go pretty
100%.
long. So
We do when we can. And well, we kind of cheated because we talked for like 45 minutes prior to recording. So that took some of it.
It
But
wasn't about the Lakers, though, to be
that's
fair.
true. That's true. That's true. Shout out to you, Jackson Hayes. No disrespect. I'm sure you're going to be fantastic this year.
Oh, you're sure? All right. That's mark it down. Jabari, I always appreciate, 1, your insight, 2, just it's so much fun talking with you, and 3, just the time you give me each and every year. So are you able to tell our listeners where they can find you on social media and anything that you're working on?
Dan, it is truly my pleasure. I say it each year, and I'm going to say I will say it again. This is the most fun preview I do. I didn't even realize I had done it 4 times because it's not like it's not like work. It's just like, oh man, this is a fun conversation with a great guy. Find me on Twitter. Very easiest place to to find me. I'm never going to call it X because Mama called it Twitter, and I'm going to continue to call it Twitter.
That also sounds like a porn site, by the way. I don't know if people pointed that site.
Which I'm not judging, but like that's corny and silly, and whatever. Twitter. Jabari Davis NBA. As Dan mentioned earlier, Mad Boosties. You can find it anywhere you find your podcast. I write and produce for that show. Those guys are great. They have a fun time with with a great guest, and I'm not patting myself by saying that, but they end up with great guests each week. It's a fun conversation for the more casual to lighthearted basketball fans.
You guys do slum it every once in a while because I've been on twice. So
like I said, great guests every
and the links to Jabari's Twitter and the Mad Boosties podcast to subscribe, those will be in the podcast and YouTube description for everyone listening, watching, whatever. I mean, if you're watching, I don't know who watches podcasts on YouTube. I know people comment, but I always think like you're listening to them in the background. You're hopefully not sitting there watching me becoming raptured by Jabari. Like I'm just sitting here like this sometimes, just staring at Jabari.
I hope they weren't looking at me or weren't actively watching me, but if you were, hey, here we are. By the way, Matt Lieb and Roy Wood Jr. coming up in the next couple of weeks on Mad Boosties.
Go again. Link is in the pod and YouTube description. Go subscribe and check it out. Jabari, thank you so much. You know by now, as long as this podcast exists, I'll be spamming your DMs again in the future.
I will be gleefully receiving those and saying hell yes. So thank you.